Going to call this meeting to order. We're going to suspend our moment of reflection, our pledge of allegiance, to go straight to roll call.
Mr. McManus, Mr. Fortin, Dr. Wise, Mr. Oslanik, Ms. Brink,
Here.
Mr. Koblenz,
Here.
Mr. Lindner,
Present.
Mr. Boyd, Mr. Ring,
Here.
Mr. Gilbert,
Here.
Mr. Morvay.
Here.
Beautiful. 6 present and accounted for. There's no minutes. Takes us right to our guest and public comment. Anybody like to address the board? Hearing none. We've got one item on the agenda. That's old business operations, the EC3 long-term lease agreement. Somebody like to move that, then we can discuss it?
So moved.
Second, Gilbert.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Everybody good
I don't
with the
know if
changes
anybody
that were
wants-
made?
Do you want me to review the quick changes that were made based on the comments from the board?
Sure.
So the changes to the lease agreement that the board previously reviewed at its last meeting are found first in Article 3, the last sentence. There was a cap in regard to the rental increase. That sentence was removed from the lease. On page 2, there was a concern in Article 5 about insurance. And we've changed that because the technical school has the building fully insured at the present time. So it did not make sense for the lessee to acquire a second policy in regard to the building. In that section, what we're talking about is loss or damage by fire, windstorm, lightning, riot, civil commotion, those type of things, which the technical school already has insurance for that. So we deleted that requirement from the lessee, and we added a requirement: the lessee shall maintain its own insurance in the amounts proper to protect the lessee's personal property and equipment that would be located within the building. So the tech school has the building itself, and the lessee or the community college has the insurance for their own personal property equipment that's contained within the lease premises. And we also then modified paragraph 3 there that talks about who gets the proceeds of the policies of insurance. If it's the tech school's policy, obviously they get the proceeds. If it's the community college policy, they get the proceeds. So that has been clarified and now makes sense. The last issue that was raised was whether or not the technical school has an obligation to make capital improvements under the lease. And that's found in both Articles 6 and 7 of the lease, found on pages 2 and 3. And the answer to that question is the tech school has the obligation to make repairs and maintain the premises in good working condition. That does not require the technical school to do additional capital improvements if it chooses not to do so. However, obviously, if the roof leaks, you have to fix the roof. Do you have to replace the roof? No, unless the entire roof is leaking. And so that's the obligation. We have no ongoing capital requirements in this lease. And the capital improvements section is dealing only with lessee's ability to make the capital improvements found on page 3. So I believe that these changes and that explanation addresses all the questions that were raised at the board meeting. And I guess I would stop there.
So do you need a motion to approve?
Well, we have the
I thought we
motion.
Oh, okay.
We already had that.
Any more discussion? I guess, Mike, you were one that brought some of those up. Are you happy with those changes? Are you satisfied with that?
I am satisfied with that. I still have a concern whether or not we are collecting the appropriate amount of rent to cover the use of the structure, knowing that, as Attorney Senate mentioned, it is about capital improvement. You know, we don't have to replace roof, but how many years are left on the roof? How many years are left in the existing major facilities of that system in the building? It's still somewhat of a concern, but I think that this at least addresses a majority of them.
And not by not capping the increase, we can get through a term here and then we can know what it's really costing, know what the
Correct.
outlook goes, and then we can adjust from there if we need to.
Yes, Sam, I think that's a fair trade in there, that if, you know, if we had to do a roof or an HVAC project, you know, 12 years from now, not being capped at a rent rate allows us to make this still a viable relationship.
Any other discussion from anybody?
For the record, at the last meeting, there was an ask to talk about like what would it take to do some renovation and so forth. Frank did a quick assessment on that and talked about in the ballpark of $3 to $5 million if we were to do a renovation on like the overall systems over there with whatnot. We would only be about half the roof because the half the roof has been replaced within the nexus in the last 10 years. But then the most of it would be in electrical and some system scenarios. Our HVAC over there has been addressed within the last 10 years. And Frank, what else am I missing there?
The only thing that I might add is that half the roof was replaced in the last 10 years. The other half is actively leaking, which we will be seeking repairs. It has nothing to do with the lease. I just know that that's on our radar. So I just wanted to, since we were discussing about the roofs and things like that, I just let you know about that. The building is like you said, about a $3 to $5 million renovation based on square footage, and that completely is a wild number at this point in time, because I don't know what the board would or would not want to do in the future. We're just trying to do a snapshot and not paying anybody to come in here and assess the building. I can tell you that we'll be looking at some upgrades in the next few years, depending on if the electrical gets worse or if the roof, I can tell you the roof will have to work on, maybe some doors, things like that. So it's an old building, but none of this it looks to me like the lease is not forcing us to do any improvements. And so I think we can just kind of continue as we would have gone, even if the lease didn't go through. Does that make sense, Mr. Stennett?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that sounds good, Frank. Thank you.
All right.
Any
So
other
Sam, I
discussion?
guess following up on Frank and Matt, thank you for doing that. I think that helps also put this in a much better perspective, knowing that we potentially have somewhere from $3 to $5 million of, you know, deferred maintenance for this structure in the horizon. Knowing that we're going to accumulate better than 50% of that deferred maintenance in this lease, I think goes to Sam, our conversation that we need to probably pick up at the next meeting is, where do we put this lease revenues to make sure that knowing what the deferred maintenance of the structure is in the future?
Yes.
Did
Any
we
other
not
dis-
also talk about having a sinking fund about for improvements on this building?
It would run out of our capital improvement fund. That's what we're talking about, is transferring the income from this directly into our capital reserve fund. This year, the budget that we just sent to the school districts includes that into our general operating fund. However, we're looking to make a transfer now, a one-time transfer into our capital reserves that will cover that amount. But then starting with the next budget that we do, that's what Mike's referring to, that we're going to suggest that income goes directly into the capital reserve fund to be able to fund the different capital projects that we need to make to that building and also this one, even
And
though it's new.
Didn't EC3 suggest that they might try to get grants for capital improvements, or is
Yes.
that on us?
No, well, they
That
can
is
get,
part of the partnership.
yeah, that's part of that agreement. However, the lease doesn't hold them to that. With a long-term lease, now they can go and look and see what there is money available to them out there. So that's part of it. But we can't guarantee that.
I mean, but we can't force them to apply for grants, but is
Correct.
there a, an agreement that they will at least, attempt?
No, that is part of this whole entire project of us partnering with them,
Okay.
rowing the boat together. They're applying for a $14 million grant that I met with them and developed with them for dual enrollment. They're applying for another capital improvement project grant. There's some money flowing to the community colleges now through the state budget, and that's what we're trying to tap into. Was
Okay.
the overarching
That's what I
plan
was
of
looking for.
why we wanted this lease. Was they have access to certain funds that'll help us not do the whole building, but half of the building is, or over half is my goal of tapping into the funds that are out there through state and federal money. So,
Okay, thank you, Matt. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Any other
And
questions?
Well, just one more point. If they do on page 3, Article 7, capital improvements, if the community college wants to proceed forward with the capital improvements, they cannot do so unless we approve it. It's subject to our consent. So they just can't go on and determine what they're going to do without our consent.
Right.
Sam,
Any other
Steve
discussion?
Gilbert.
Steve, go ahead.
Is the community college in agreement with our changes?
yeah, we worked with them. I'll let Tim speak to that. Sorry about that, Tim.
Oh, that's fine. Matt, no problem. Yes, they are in total agreement. They're waiting for us to sign it. They're very eager to get going.
That's what I was hoping to hear.
Any other discussion? Then I'll call for the vote. We're gonna go ahead and do a roll call, just so we make sure we get everybody clearly. Go back. Yep. Just the ones that are here.
Those who are here, okay. Ms. Brink,
Aye.
Mr. Koblenz,
Yes.
Mr. Lindner,
Yes.
Mr. Ring,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert,
Yes.
Mr. Morvay,
Yes.
It passes. Thank you all very much. We will adjourn this meeting unless anybody has anything further.
I'll just
No,
echo
thank you.
Mike
Y'all
a
have a
little
good
bit. I'll say that I appreciate all the effort that you guys put into reworking this to address those concerns. And so thank you for that.
Thanks, Steve. All those in favor of adjourning, hang up.
Aye.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thanks, guys.
you.